Deshi. I live in Jos. I am a storyteller first. I've done script writing for a number of TV shows on cable TV and the streaming platforms, and also a book writer. I've done a number of ghostwriting, ghostwritten a couple of books, and set to publish my first memoir. So I think writing for me as a person is first therapy. It's how I interact with my world. It's how I resolve the questions in my mind. So I can't remember a time that I wasn't writing. As soon as I learned how to read, I started to write too. And so writing first for me is therapy, but also writing is because I'm passionate about storytelling. My father of blessed memory was a lecturer an English lecturer, and he loves to tell stories. So I grew up with a culture of storytelling, and the moment I could craft characters in my head, I wanted to do that, and I just wanted to write and tell a story. So the satisfaction of storytelling for me, and also personally as therapy. So for me, probably two main things would be script writing and narrative storytelling. Script writing because of the work I've been privileged to do with movies, but narrative storytelling, whether it's fiction or non-fiction actually, because I like to see a story. I like to see how a story unfolds, and whether it is with real life characters or with fictitious characters, you almost can always trace the story arc, and it's just interesting to tell a story I've heard being told to me. Relationship stories. We have an inside joke in my writing communities where I'm the romance writer, because I'm a lady. I like love, right? So, but I think I like more than that. For some reason, the new form of writing that is really attracting me is the supernatural storytelling angle. That's because I feel like a lot of African culture is getting lost. So I've been wanting to work on not science fiction, now supernatural fiction, where I get to incorporate some of the bits of Ngas culture that my father told me about. For instance, I remember my father talking about a burial, how kings are buried, and how when they die, they'll be massaging their joints so that they don't get stiff, and then they'll kill a cow and put them on it, and how in the culture the stomach will grow up until it swells and bursts open. And Ngas people call that the vomiting of the guinea corn, and say that if that's not done by the chief, there will be no harvest the next time. And how the king is buried in a sitting position with his head on his knees, and then after a year the head rolls off. And I still consider myself a young person, but in my perfect dreams, I would really want to talk to people that are older than me, that have grown up in African settings, to be able to tell us about these cultures, to be able to put into storytelling form, because there's so much out there. All my life. So let's, maybe for the last 30, let's see, I learned how to read at 5. So that would make me a reader for 41 years. But I started writing maybe in primary 2 or 3. So that would mean I've been writing for 38 years. A very long time. So everywhere. I think it's funny. The other day I was taking a walk and I was seeing a man on my street just walking past me. And I didn't have my earphones. So in a moment of mental boredom, I asked myself, I just told myself, if you had to describe this guy and think about what can be a backstory, an appropriate backstory for him, what would you create? And I just started creating him in my head. So I think ideas are just everywhere. Sometimes with me, I've been blessed or cursed with an overactive imagination, depending on which one you decide it is. And so I've put myself in scenarios, and initially it made me, when I was younger, it used to make me do a lot of negative thinking. Like, I'm just on the road and I'm like, okay, what happens if I just get kidnapped? But when I started leaning into the storytelling aspect of me, I would run with the fantasy and decide, okay, yes, what if you get kidnapped and you get rescued? What do you think are the adventures that will happen along the way? Most difficult part. Okay, I hate, let me start with what I hate. I hate non-fiction writing because I have a 10-year background in banking. I also get to do the other things like the proposal writing and all of that, and I don't like it. I think I don't like the limitations I feel when I'm doing that form of writing. And but other than that, my writing process is that I play with an idea in my head for a long time before I sit down. And the start, I think for me it's the start, which is why I've learned not to push a story to happen. I've learned to sit with it in my head, play with the idea in my head. Currently I'm writing a movie and I made some notes, I made sketchy notes, and I realized that throughout this Christmas period I've been thinking about it, not very sure. And then today when I picked up my laptop, I could see what had changed because I've stayed with the idea for a bit. So for me, it's always the start that is the most difficult. I think imagination. I would start with imagination. I think that a writer should have imagination. I also think a writer needs to read a lot. So I think that a writer should be a reader, because none of us is inventing the wheel, so to speak. So I think that we all need to read a little bit more, so that when we read, we're not copying, but we're getting to see how other people tell their stories, and it helps us to see the range to which we would create. I also think consistency. I think that writers are creatives, and creatives are not the most disciplined people. So if you ask me, one of the hardest things I think for people who really want to write is the discipline of writing. We want to do it when the spirit falls on us, as if it's a religious experience. But if we really want to be good at this thing, we need to do something every day and, to consistently just work on our skills. I think we all should read because it widens our viewpoints of life. I grew up in a small town called Gindri, and I would imagine, and I do imagine what my life would have been like if I didn't have the power of books transporting me to other places and making me also to see how other people, deal with life. So I think that we need to read so that we can expand our worldview. I also think that reading is good escape. It's just able to carry you from one place to the other. And honestly, when the world gets hard, you want to be, for anyone who loves to read, you just want to be immersed in a book. You want to be able to, do all of that. And I mean, how better to connect with the world? Even if you were born into a privileged background and you can travel every year to a new country, you would never be able to exhaust the experience of life as you would if you read. So literacy for me is about being able to interact with the world at its fullest. One, I'll say read. Read because there's a world out there that you want to know better about. But secondly, I would say write. Write because I think, especially for those of us from this part of the world, I do think that there are narratives that have dominated the writing space. We all know the West so well. Your average child that reads knows what happens in America and knows more about American culture than about the chief whose belly bursts open when he dies. So I want to say, I don't know how to say it, but with the loss of every other person who has experienced life differently from us, we're losing a lot of tradition and a lot of history. In 2017, when I lost my father, I found myself wishing I had spent more time with him. I found myself wishing I had known 1 year in advance before he died, and I had set the cameras to hear all the stories. And all of a sudden, I had questions I wanted to ask him, but he was not there to be asked. And the other day, I found myself just sitting down with my mother and saying, okay, tell me the story. How did you really meet my father? Where were you at in life? And she looked at me and said, hey, somebody wants to go and tell a story. And I said, yes, I do, because something gets lost when you people are not here. So I really hope that more of us in Africa write. But to really be good at our craft, we need to read. Learn how to write and then write.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
I'm grateful. Thank you.